Hey, what's going on guys? Welcome to the 16th episode of PHP with MySQL Crash Course for Beginners. Includes form data processing, server-side form validation, and displaying error messages to the front end. Form data processing is the process of sending data from an HTML form to a PHP script. It allows users to input information through HTML forms, which is then processed by a PHP script to perform various actions such as storing data in a database, sending emails, or executing other tasks. There are two methods used to send data to the server, get and post. Let's begin with the get method. And here we have got Visual Studio Code as our code editor. And if you need to learn more about VS Code, you can watch my VS based series and find the link in the description below. So before we move on, let's select sample and make a copy of this sample.php. And there is an error since permission denied. Let me bring up my terminal and let's change the ownership. Hit enter. Let's get back to VS Code and try to copy the file again. And let's rename it as form-data-processing.php. And let's close the Explorer as well as this sample.php, and let's add some PHP tag, and then I'm gonna echo say hello world followed by a semicolon. Hit save. And now to turn your auto reload on, you will need to start two extensions, live server and PHP server. So let's turn them on. Open with live server, that will bring up the browser, and let's close this tab for now. Get back to VS Code and let's start PHP server with this command serve project, and let's close the terminal as well as this notification. Now let's bring up our browser and browse to localhost /PHP tutorial / and the name of the file that we have just created, which is form-data-process.php. Hit enter and that throws an error. PHP tutorial form-data-process.php. Not found. Localhost PHP tutorial tutorial form. Let me see form data processing, form-data-processing. Let's turn off the live server and turn it back on. Object not found. PHP tutorial form-data-process.php. Or let's get back in here. Let's copy the file name and get back to our browser. Let's replace it with the text we have just copied. Hit enter and there was a typo error. Now let's resize the browser as well as the editor. Let me close the Explorer, and just to make sure that you have successfully started auto reload, let's add some random text here. Hit save and that's working. Now let's zoom in a bit. That looks perfect. And let's cut the line of code from here and let's talk about form data processing. Let's comment that out, go to the next row, and first of all let me quickly get the very basic HTML form ready and then I'll explain it to you. So to do that, or you could also copy the form, or let's make a new one. So let's add form. The action would be, let's cut that line of code from here, go to the next row, or out of PHP context, paste that in here, and the action would be process-form.php. We haven't created this file yet, but let's move on. And the method would be get. Let's go to the next row and I'm gonna add a label here. Let's define the value for attribute is gonna be name, and let's add name here, colon. Go to the next row, and I'm gonna add new input field with an ID, say name, and the name attribute is gonna be name. You can specify any values here, it's all up to you. And let's add some line break. Let me wrap the editor, go to the next row, and then, or let's come back in here. Let's select this whole block of code and make a copy with the Control Alt Shift up or down. So this is the hotkey that I set. You might have some other hotkey for copying the line of code up or down, so be careful about that. Now let's move on and let's make some changes here. Say that's gonna be email would be the title, and the type would be email. ID will also be email, and the name will also be email. And after that, let's add another input here. The value of the type attribute would be submit. Name and ID, I don't think I need it right now. Instead, I'm gonna add in here value is gonna be equal to submit. Let's hit save, and we get pretty nice and decent, very basic HTML form. Now let me explain you about all of these attributes a little bit. By the way, if you need to learn more about all of these HTML tags, you can watch my HTML based series and find the link in the description below. Let us start with this action attribute. This action attribute specifies the URL or file name where the form data will be sent upon submission. If left blank, the form is submitted to the same file. This attribute defines the backend script responsible for processing the submitted data. That is gonna be this process-form.php. We'll create it in a moment. Then we have this method attribute. It refers to the HTTP method used to transmit data from an HTML form to the server-side script. It defines how the data is sent. Now let me share one image with you. This image shows how the HTTP works. HTTP stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol, meaning the request is sent to the server. This is, you can consider client. The client can be the browser technically, and here we have got the server. On the right hand side we have server, on the left hand side this is client. So the request is sent to the server, and then we receive the response from the server back to the client or our browser. So this is very brief introduction of Hypertext Transfer Protocol. Let me get rid of it and get back to VS Code. So we left off with this method, get method. So it actually defines how the data is set. And there are two methods, get and post. Let me type it down here. The first method is get, the second method is post. As far as get method is concerned, it is used to send form data to the server, and the data is appended to the URL as query parameters in terms of key and value pairs visible in the URL. I'll also give an example. The other is the post method that we'll discuss in a little bit. Now after method we have these attributes. Say type, that defines the type of the input. Then we have ID, and this is here same as for the value of the for attribute of the label tag. And after that we have this name attribute. It defines the unique identifier for an input field within a form. It's used to associate the form data with a specific name that will be used on the server-side processing, meaning that you will receive the data of all of your form's input fields in the value of this name attribute. So now let's move on. After that I'm gonna create a new file, or let's bring up our Explorer and let's select sample.php. make a copy and let's rename it as process lowercase process hyphen form.php. Let me close the Explorer and this sample.php. And I'm also gonna close this file for now. Alright, so now let's add some PHP tag and I'm gonna echo here. Hello form hyphen data. Sorry, let's type it here. Process hyphen form dot php followed by semicolon. Hit save and let's come in here and I'm gonna submit this form, and that form takes us to, let me maximize the browser, it takes us to process-form.php, and if you notice that it also append the data to the URL because we did not input any information in the fields. That's why these keys left blank. Or say if let's get back and I'm gonna add some random data here, say John, and email would be 123 at example email examplemail.com. Hit submit, and now if you notice that we have the data appended to this URL, name equals to John and email equals to 123, at is replaced with this %, 40 example.com. So if you defined get method in your form, which is right here, get back in here, and we defined the method here as get, you will receive, that will append the form data in the URL as it has appended here in the URL, and the form redirects us to this process-form.php. Let me resize the browser, and now let's go to form process-form.php and let's go to the next row. And before you get this form data and process it further, you would like to check if the request is get or post. Let's comment that out and go to the next row and define here our if statements. We don't need else here. And to check the request, the type of request, you will need to pass here $_server superglobal with the key that we discussed in our superglobals episode. That's gonna be request _ method. So if that is equals to get, we'll move on. Now this $_server is a superglobal array that holds information related to the server, the current script, and the request made by the client to the server. And this key here, which is request _ method, is a PHP superglobal variable that holds the request method used to access the current script. It typically stores either get, post, put, or delete based on the type of request made to the server. Now if you want to get the form data, you will need to access to say $_get array, and this $_get is a PHP superglobal array used to collect form data sent with the get method. It contains key value pairs where keys represent the input field names defined in the HTML form and values hold the data entered or selected by the user upon form submission. So let me cut that from here and let me show you what it has. With the help of our favorite function, which is _r, let's pass $_get as an argument here, followed by a semicolon, and hit save. Now let's add a couple of line breaks here. Hit save and this $_get includes two keys. Number one is name and the second is email that we sent from this form. We have two inputs here. Number one is name and the second input is email. So these name corresponds to the keys of our $_get array, and with these keys you can get the data of the form and process it further. So let's move on, and I'm gonna define here a new variable which is name equals to $_get followed by name. And let's make a copy and let's change it to say email. After defining your variables and assigning the form data to it, you can perform desired operations with the submitted data. For example, saving to the database, sending an email, or etc. Further, what you can do is, let's come in here and let's echo response from the form sends by process hyphen, let's wrap the editor, form or process form, or it was sent by form hyphen data hyphen process dot php followed by semicolon. Hit save. Before that, let's add some line break, and after that let's add some line break again. And now let's echo submitted data colon, let's add semicolon, next row, line break, next row, and now let's echo within quotes say name colon, and let's concatenate here name, and after that add some line break, go to the next row, let's echo email colon, let's concatenate here $email, the variable we just defined, email followed by semicolon. Now hit save, and we receive the data in our process hyphen form sent by form data processing form. So that's how you can retrieve and process the data sent by HTML form. And if we go back to, let's go back and hit hard reload. Now if you add here say doe, and the email can be doe@example.com, and if you hit enter, you get the data here in the process hyphen form.php. Now let's move on to post method. When you use post method, the form data is sent as part of the HTTP request body, providing a more secure and suitable approach for sensitive or large data. Now, for example, I'm gonna make this, let me maximize the editor, and I'm gonna make a copy of this whole block of code. Let's copy, let's comment that out, and then let's go all the way up and let's paste that in here, and let me define here get method. Let's comment that out, go all the way up, and here I'm gonna add a comment say post method. Let's comment that out, and to make a post request you will need to make a change to this form as post, hit save, and get back to process hyphen form, and now check if the request is, or let's make it post. If the request is post, now you will also need to change these occurrences just to receive the data sent by the post method. You will need to add in here post, and then everything will remain the same. Now let's resize the editor. Now as I hit save, let's get back to our form and let's make it John, or let's make this John. That's gonna be 123@example.com. Hit submit, and we do not get that process. It's not coming here. Hopefully, let's make this uppercase post. Hit save, get back in here, submit. Why we do not $_post, or let's add else here, and let's echo the request is otherwise, followed by semicolon. Hit save. Alright, so it's not coming here in the post. If the request is post, let's make it post. Save. Not working. Or what you can do is, let's keep it get, and if the request method is not get, hit save, we get. Now we have access to this block of code. I don't know why it was not accessing it. That was just a workaround. Otherwise, let's copy this block of code, or what I can do is, let's come in here and copy, and let's echo $server request method. Hit save, and that's get array. Otherwise we send request by post method. If we get back in here, let's hard refresh the page and fill the form again. 1 2 3, submit. Now that was an error of hard reset. Now let's come in here and let's cut that line of code from here, and let's specify here post, and let's remove this sign of exclamation and replace it with equals. Hit save. Alright, so now we come to the right place. So that's how you can retrieve the data from post method. Now you would be interested in get versus post. First of all, let me tell you that get method sends form data as URL parameters visible in the browser's address bar. Let me change this to get. Hit save. Let's get back in here, hard refresh, and if I hit submit, let's get back in here, fill the form, hit submit, and if I maximize the browser, you see that the form data is visible here in the URL. So this is one of the characteristics of get method, and it has limited data size due to URL length constraints, and it's suitable to fetch non-sensitive data such as search results. And at the end, this data can easily be bookmarked, cached, and shared. So this is one of the benefits of get method, whereas post method sends form data in the background without displaying in the URL. If we get back to VS Code and let's change it back to post, hit save, and get back in here, hard refresh, and let's fill the form again. 123@examplemail.com, hit submit, and if I maximize the browser, the post method does not send the data or append the data in the URL, and it can handle large amounts of data compared to get method. It's more secure for sensitive or confidential information and suitable for submitting data that needs to remain private or hidden. Moreover, choosing between get and post depends on various factors. For example, security, data size, and caching and bookmarking. Next, you can move on to server-side form validation. Validating a form involves ensuring that the data entered by users must meet specific criteria or constraints such as required fields, data formats, and sanitization. So let's get back to, let me resize the browser and get back to VS Code. Now you would like to check if fields are empty. So before we move on from here, let's check if the fields are empty. Let's comment that out, and I'm gonna define here if-else statement, and you can check for empty fields with the function empty and pass here say $name, and or you will need to cut this code from here and paste that here after defining the variables. Let's cut this extra space from here, and then the second condition would also be the same. Let's copy this expression from here and paste that in here. Let's replace it with email. So if that's true, meaning any of the field is empty, let's go to the next row, and you would like to echo that please fill in all the fields, followed by a semicolon, and then rest of the code. Let's cut that from here and we paste that remaining code here within else context. So hit save, and if we get back to our form, let's hard refresh, and if for some reason if someone does not fill this form and hit submit, we get an error, please fill in all the fields. Let's add some line break here. So after that, you would also like to validate the format of the data. So for that, if fields are not empty, now let's validate email format. Let's comment that out, go to the next row, and let's specify here if-else structure. So you can verify various type of data with a built-in function filter underscore var, and here you'll need to pass a couple of arguments, say the data that you would like to verify. In our case, it's email, and the constant that you would like to verify this data with. In this case, I'm gonna add in here filter underscore validate, there should be email. So if that's true, we can come here, or let's go otherwise. If that's not true, you would like to come here and echo say invalid email format followed by semicolon, and after that let's redirect the user to say location back to farm-data-process.php, or I think I should let's not do it for now. So if that's not the case, you would like to process your further code, let's cut that from here and paste that in here. Hit save, and that says please fill in all the fields. So for any reason, if both the fields are fully filled but the format of the email is incorrect, say we accidentally did not add the @ sign, and now if you hit submit, first we have already turned the default validation on. So to turn it off, let's get back in here to the form and turn the default validation off. You will need to specify here an attribute NOVALIDATE and hit save. Now if you try to submit the form with incorrect email format that submits, but you get an error from your PHP validation, which is right here. And before that, let's add some line break. Save. Invalid email format. Now, after validating data format, you would like to sanitize inputs. Let's cut that line of code from there, hit save. And you like to sanitize inputs to prevent potential security threats such as cross-site scripting. Let me type in here cross-site scripting, also known as XSS. This cross-site scripting is a type of security threat commonly found in web applications, and it occurs when attackers inject malicious scripts. And before we move on, first let me show you what I mean by that. Say if you do not have the preventive code, let's get back to the form. Let's hard refresh the page, and first let me prepare the input with the script tag, and within a script tag I'm gonna call alert. By the way, this is JavaScript, and if you need to learn more about JavaScript, you can watch my JavaScript based series and find the link in the description below. And let's add in here hello cross-site scripting XSS, and let me add here say video or an image from some other site can be displayed here that you would not like. And let's cut that line from there, and let's cut line from there as well. Let's add semicolon. Now let's copy this script from here, hit save and get back in here, and if I paste that in here, that should be 1 2 3. And now if you hit submit, that triggers the alert. Hello XSS video or an image from other site can be displayed here. So that can be very dangerous for your site. Obviously you wouldn't like others to display any video or image from other site to your application. So that was one of the examples of cross-site scripting. Let's okay that and get back to our form. Now to avoid XSS or cross-site scripting, there is a preventive code. What you can do is, before you move on and echo, you would like to sanitize your inputs. Say $name equals to, with the built-in function which is HTML special characters, and pass in here the variable to sanitize followed by other input which is email. And after sanitizing, this function converts special characters to HTML entities, meaning that, let me echo it first. Let me show you what this function does. Let's define here or specify here $name followed by semicolon and hit save. So now if anyone try to send this script, malicious script, to your site and hit submit, and it still displays that message because we have, before sanitization, I think we have some output of our $post, and it's right here. If I comment that out and hit save, let's get rid of it now. And if we, let's go back to, or say Control Shift R, hard reset, and let's go back to farm data processing. Enter, and let's hard refresh and paste the script again. 1 2 3, and now if you submit, you don't receive that alert message anymore. So that was because of this echo. It was displaying it before we sanitized it. And after that, let's see how you can validate inputs using regular expressions. So for that, let's come in here. Before I guess email validation, say you wouldn't like anyone to add numbers instead of text. For example, for the name field, you wouldn't like your user to add their number. So for that, you can use regular expressions. I think email validation is right here. So before validating an email, you would like to check if it includes text or numbers. So let's come in here and say validate inputs using regex. By the way, if you need to learn more about regex, you can watch my related episode and find the link in the description below. Let's go to the next row, and first I'm going to define a pattern here. So for any of the fields, you can define a pattern. So here I'm going to define a pattern for name. Pattern equals to, let me add some room before we move on. So name pattern equals to, within quotes, // and within, let's add caret character, then square brackets A to Z, and then uppercase A to uppercase Z. Then let's add code here, and then hyphen. After that, let's add plus and $sign. So let me explain you what this expression is all about. These are the delimiters. These two forward slashes are the delimiters. Then we have this caret character that denotes the start of the string, and from here lowercase A to Z, then uppercase A to Z. Then we have quote and hyphen allowed in the string. So these characters are allowed in the string, and this plus sign indicates that preceding characters, meaning these characters, can appear one or more times in the string, and then at the end this $sign denotes the end of the string. So after that, let's add semicolon, go to the next row, and let's add here if else structure. You can verify the pattern with the input with the help of built-in function, which is preg underscore match, and pass here two arguments. Number one, the pattern that you wanna search for. Second, the input, which is name. And then if that's true, let's echo within quotes in valid name, and let's concatenate $name character followed by semicolon. Otherwise, you can add here rest of the code from here all the way to the end. Let's cut that and get back in here. After validating, if fields are empty, you can validate inputs using regular expressions, then further code execution. Let's paste everything here. Hope everything looks fine. Let's cut, or let me prettify it. hit save. And now if we get back to there, and instead of John, I'm gonna add in here 1 2 3, submit. That should, if correct match, or say if not, hit save, invalid name. So otherwise, if we entered correct name, say John, and correct email format, submit, it executes rest of the code. Next, we are going to discuss that how you can display error messages to the front end, meaning to your front end. If you get any error, you can display them here as well. So for that, let's get back here, and I'm gonna remove these files and this as well. We don't need it anymore. So let's go all the way up in here, and if post, then let me clean the code, and here I'm gonna define a new variable, say $errors is gonna be equals to an empty array, and after that you would like to append the errors to this array. So let's come in here and let's append it $errors, sorry, let's make this errors, and that should be equals to, please fill in all the fields. Let's copy that in here and paste that in here. Let's comment that out, then go to the next error, validate inputs regular, and here let's make a copy. Let's add in here $errors equals to, followed by the key that can be, say, name format, and this should be required. What do we else here? Email. Let's make a copy, and then $errors. Let's define a key here, say email equals to invalid email, and sanitization. Now everything is fine, and after everything we are going to say print underscore r $errors. Let me show you if we get these errors or not. It's safe. Say if I mistakenly fill here 1 2 3 and the wrong email, hit submit, the array is generated, invalid name format, and 1 2 3, and then we have another array, invalid name. Let's not echo it here. Turn off all the echo statements because we are now trying to generate an array of errors. Let's turn this off, hit save. Now we only get name format, invalid name, that is 1 2 3, and let's not concatenate here, let's keep it right there. Alright, so if you receive so if any error is generated, you can send this error back to your form data processing, and for that you will need to start a session with session underscore start function. Now what is session? So first let's come in here and let's start the session here, session underscore start followed by a semicolon, hit save, and to receive, now you'll be able to access super global, which is $session, and $session is a super global array utilized to manage session specific data that is persists across multiple pages. During a user's interaction with a web application, it serves as a container to store and access session variables, ensuring data availability as users navigate through different sections of an application. Let's see how $session works. So you have started session here. Now you will also need to start session here, session underscore start. So you have started the session here. Now you are able to access a super global, which is print_r, and that is $_session. Let's comment that out. Let's add semicolon, hit save, and you get this array here. Now to get all the errors to this $_session, you will need to assign all of these errors to $_session. Let's define $_session equals to $errors, followed by a semicolon. Now let's hit save, and you get, let me comment this line of code out, hit save, and now you get the errors in $_sessions array. Now you are able to access these errors to your form or your main page, which is form data processing. So for that, or let's define a key here as well, which is errors, ERRORS. Actually, I am running out of the time. Errors equals to errors. It's safe, and we should have an array that is errors, session errors. That's right in there. Now to remove that, let's save again, print_r, that's an array. Let's add in here session _destroy. Let's destroy it first, just to clear these $_session array. Hit save, and now let's comment that out. Hit save again. Now we have only one key in $_session array, which is errors. After that, you would like to check if there is any error. Let's comment that out, and let's go all the way up, scroll all the way up with the help of, say, if statement. And here I'm gonna pass or invoke a function is set. Let's pass here $_session and its key, which is errors. So if that's true, let's echo here errors, followed by a semicolon, and I'm gonna comment this line out for now. Hit save, and we are here. So after that, let's comment this out and invoke a function here, which is header, and let's add in here the location where you would like to redirect your users to, form-data-process.php, followed by a semicolon. So after that, if you hit save, notice that should take you, that is processing. It's save, form data ing processing. Now if I add here any wrong data, submit, that actually takes us back to, if I just comment this line out, hit save, and if I submit again, we can see errors. If I uncomment this line and let's hit save, that takes you back to the form data processing.php. You are able to access $_session variable with the key errors. Hit save, and we receive ERRORS. Hit save, and that's an empty right now. And let's see what we have. So for that, let's comment this line out, and let's first copy this array, go to the next row, and let's print_r. Let's paste it. That's a kind of debugging. See if you don't get what you need. Hit save, and let's submit the form again, and we still have empty array, meaning that we don't have any error message. Let's comment that out. Hit save, Cancel. Let's save that and see why we do not get any error message. We are appending. Alright, so here is an error message. There is a typo error. Let's copy that variable from there and paste it in here. It's safe. Now we should get, please fill in all the fields. That's how you can append error messages to this array. And finally, assign this errors array to $_session errors key. Now if we uncomment this line of code, and we should redirect to the form page, and we get this, please fill in all the fields required. Now let's get back to VS Code and let's comment that out and say if you want to. By the way, this series is not about how you can style or design your website. If you are interested in styling your web application, you can watch my Bootstrap based series or CSS or Grid or Flexbox series and find the link in the description below. But for the sake of an idea, let's add some paragraph tag and let's give it some style, or let's add some PHP tag just for your convenience. And here I'm gonna introduce ternary operator, meaning that you can define if-else statement in just one line by adding parenthesis followed by colon and question mark. So within this parenthesis, you will simply define your condition. Say you will need to, let's echo, and you will echo on conditional basis. So if is set, and let me copy the variable here, which is right here, $_session errors. Let's copy that from here and within parentheses paste that variable. So if is set, then after question mark you would like to say, let's copy echo the key. In our case, we are getting required right now, so let's copy that and paste that key here afterwards. And if that's not true, so you can add empty string followed by semicolon. So that's how you can define if-else statement in just one line. So let's cut that from here and let's cut this extra space or empty space from here. So now you have whole code in just one line. Let's select this whole line of code, cut that from here, and can display the message here, I say, within this paragraph tags. And I'm also gonna style, let's add color should be red. That will do, I guess, or that should be echoed, say, before submit button. So let's cut this error message from here and paste that right here, before submit button. Now if you hit save, you get the error message, please fill in all the fields. And at the very end, always remember to add PHP tag. Always remember to destroy the session by invoking a function session_destroy followed by semicolon. It's safe and that destroys the session. So if I hit submit again, we still get the error message. Otherwise, if we add some random data here and hit submit, we don't get that error anymore, but we have a warning, undefined array key required. That should only be if is set, line number 14. If is set, this is set $_sessions. If it is set, errors required, then or you will need to add here this key as well. Let's copy this key from here and paste that right here. Now if you hit save, the warning goes away. And if you hit say John and email, now if you hit save, we don't get any error. Otherwise, if you left it blank and then submit, we get the error message. So that's how you can display error messages to your form or any of the forms. That was just an idea. And now if you want, you can also add other messages, other error messages to all these checks. Say empty fields, you can also add this message to the errors. Invalid name. We have already assigned all of these errors to our $_session. And this way you can display any of the message. And that was all about it. If you have any question, you just feel free to comment below, and do not forget to like, share and subscribe. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Thanks for watching and see you next time.